People love talking about vision, strategy, hustle, and talent when it comes to success. But honestly, a big part of my story, maybe the biggest part, comes down to something else. Luck. Yeah, I said it. And no, that doesn't make me any less driven. It just makes me honest. I started my first business when I was 15. My brother, 11 years older and a contractor, taught me how to paint. So one day I see some guys painting at the foster home I was staying in, and I just said, I can do that too. Next thing you know, I'm painting bedrooms. Then the neighbors start calling. 6 months later, I've got 4 friends working for me, and we're making more money than anyone we knew. By the time I was 21, I had an agency. 4 years in, we were working with Packard Bell, Samsung, huge brands. 2 years after that, I had my first $1 million in the bank. Sounds like a success story, right? Sure, but that's not the whole truth. Because here's the thing. Most people only remember the effort, the grind, the choices, the sacrifices. And don't get me wrong, those matter a lot. But we forget what we don't control. We forget luck. There's even a name for that. Egocentric bias. It's that little voice in your head that says, this was all me. But it wasn't. Not completely. Take this study. When scientists are asked how much they each contributed to a paper, the total average adds up to 140%. Seriously, everyone gives themselves more credit than is even possible. Same thing happens in relationships. Ask couples who does the most around the house. It always adds up to more than 100%. Not because they're arrogant, but because we only feel our own effort. We remember what we go through, not what happens around us. And it's the same with entrepreneurs. We remember the 2 a.m. pitch decks, the rejections, the moments of doubt. We don't remember the investor who just happened to be looking for exactly what we offered, or that we were born in a country where starting a business is even possible, or that someone introduced us to someone just by chance, and boom, things took off. Calm, grounded delivery. Even in sports, same story. Did you know 40% of pro hockey players are born in the first 3 months of the year? It's not because January babies are magical. It's because of the youth league cutoff dates. Those kids are older, stronger, get more coaching, and it compounds, year after year. That's luck. That's timing. That's privilege disguised as talent. Now, I'm not saying hard work doesn't matter. Of course it does. You need grit. But don't confuse that with full control. If you start believing every part of your success is your own doing, you not only lose perspective, you lose empathy. And that's dangerous. Because the moment you think you did it all, you start thinking others should just work harder. You stop helping. You stop listening. You start believing your success is proof of your superiority. It's not. Luck isn't just a factor in success. It plays a massive role in failure too. Sometimes you just missed the timing, or the right person didn't hear your idea, or the market wasn't ready. That's not failure. That's life. Now here's the twist. Recognizing luck doesn't make you weaker. It makes you wiser. People who acknowledge luck, they tend to be kinder, more generous, more grounded. They build better teams, better businesses, better legacies. So yeah, maybe I had vision. Maybe I worked my ass off, but I also got lucky. And if you did too, own that. Then go create some luck for someone else. That's what real entrepreneurship looks like. You ever notice how some people just seem to have more luck? Things fall into place for them. The right people show up, opportunities appear. And yeah, you might think, that's just coincidence, right? But I don't believe that. Not fully. I think mindset plays a massive role in how lucky we get. Especially if that mindset is optimistic. Take Richard Branson. About 40 years ago, just before the press launch of Virgin Atlantic, the engine on his very first plane started smoking. Not ideal. Now imagine the scene. Branson walks down the stairs, probably sweating bricks, and a journalist's already there. Camera ready. Branson apologizes, says he's not ready for questions, and the journalist replies, "No worries. I got some great shots already. Shame about the smoke. You'd expect disaster, right?" But then the guy adds, "Don't worry. I'm not with a tabloid. I work for the Financial Times," and then, get this, he takes the film roll out of the camera and hands it to Branson. That one small gesture could have saved Virgin Atlantic. I believe moments like that aren't just luck. They happen more often to people with an optimistic, open energy, like Branson. See, optimism does something strange. It bends reality. It makes you more open, more daring, more approachable. You attract opportunities and people without forcing anything. If you walk around with a heavy cloud above you, people feel it. But if you walk in with lightness, with curiosity, doors open. Not always, but a lot more than when you're closed off. Optimistic people push their own limits. They say yes more. They try more. They bounce back faster. They take more shots, so they score more often. It's not just mindset, it's math. And the funny thing, people want to help people who believe in themselves. If you lose your job and you're bitter about it, people keep their distance. But if you say, "You know what? I'll land on my feet," suddenly, someone's got a lead for you. That's what optimism does. It creates momentum. And momentum brings luck. Now let's be real. Even if you're the most optimistic person on earth, it doesn't guarantee success. It won't win you the lottery. But let's be honest. You won't win the lottery either if you don't believe you might. Or if you never buy the ticket. Optimism gives you permission to try, to move, to believe that things could go right. And that's where the magic happens. So how do you build that mindset? It starts with reframing how you see the world. Coaching can help with that. Not because coaches give you answers, but because they ask the right questions. They help you see yourself differently. Meditation helps too. When you sit with your fears or negative thoughts long enough, they lose their sharp edges. They soften. And eventually, some of them even flip into something useful. And of course, your environment matters. If you scroll through bad news and angry comments all day, guess what your mindset's going to look like? So go for a walk. Talk to that friend who always cracks you up. Watch a film that lifts you. Read something hopeful. Give your brain the input it needs to see possibility. Look, I'm not saying optimism is the answer to everything, but I am saying it's the starting point for almost anything worthwhile. It won't guarantee you luck, but without it, you're basically closing the door before you've even knocked. So stay open. Stay curious. Stay light when you can. And if you can't shift that mindset alone, get help. Seriously. Everyone deserves a bit of luck, and it starts with believing that maybe, just maybe, it's on its way. All right, so let's talk more about optimism, positive thinking, whatever you want to call it. I'm not talking about ignoring reality or pretending everything's fine when it isn't. I'm talking about choosing to look at life through a different lens, one that actually helps you move forward. Because the way you think, it shapes the way you feel. And how you feel decides how you live. We live in a world that can feel heavy, unpredictable, chaotic at times. And let's be honest, staying positive in the middle of all that isn't always easy. But it makes all the difference. Not just in how you handle stuff, but in how stuff responds to you. Optimism reduces stress. You know that feeling when something goes wrong and your brain starts spiraling into, oh shit, what now? Optimists don't skip that moment. They just don't stay in it. They reframe. They shift the story. Not, why is this happening to me? But what can I do with this? And no, it's not magic. It's actually how your brain works. When you train yourself to talk back to your inner critic, to replace I can't with what if I can, something shifts We call it positive self-talk. But really, it's just being on your own side for once. And yeah, there's something called the optimism bias too. It means we naturally believe good things are more likely than bad ones. Some people call that naive. I call it useful. Because if you don't believe it's possible, you won't even try. And no one ever got lucky sitting still. Now let's get practical. You want more optimism in your life? Here's where you start. Self-awareness. Notice your own negative patterns. Catch yourself when you go dark. And ask, is this actually true? Then, gratitude. I know it sounds cliche. But when you make space to appreciate what's good, you build a mindset that's ready for more good to show up. And people. Surround yourself with people who lift your energy, not those who drain it with every sentence. Positivity is contagious. So is negativity. Choose your company like it's medicine. Set realistic goals. Celebrate small wins. Because momentum matters more than perfection. And take care of yourself. Move your body. Sleep well. Eat stuff that doesn't make you feel like crap. Basic, I know. But basic works. Add in a little meditation. Not for Zen points. Just to stop reacting like a headless chicken when life throws stuff at you. And here's what happens when you shift that mindset. Your mental health improves. You bounce back faster. You start believing in yourself again. Not because life got easier, but because you got clearer. You start seeing challenges not as reasons to quit, but as chances to grow. You stop fearing what might go wrong and start getting curious about what might go right. Optimism makes your body stronger too. Lower blood pressure, stronger immune system, better sleep, faster recovery. Why? Because stress kills and optimism softens the blow. You eat better. You move more. You stop numbing yourself with junk. Because you're not trying to escape all the time. And here's the big one. Optimism builds resilience. You learn to bend without breaking. You stop seeing setbacks as proof you're failing. And start seeing them as part of the process. You develop flexible thinking. You reframe. You trust that even if this didn't work out, you're still worth the effort. That's powerful. It also affects your relationships. Optimistic people communicate better. They're easier to be around. They don't suck the air out of the room. They connect. They listen. They believe things can get better together. That makes people feel safe and inspired. Now let's be real. Optimism isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about believing you can deal with whatever isn't. It's not a shortcut. It's a mindset. And that mindset, it creates space for growth, for joy, for luck, for love, for the version of you that isn't just surviving, but actually living. So no matter where you're at right now, remember this. You're allowed to think differently. You're allowed to believe in better. And yes, you're allowed to feel good again. Positive vibes, positive lives. Let's go make that real.